here I was, the crazy guy from the island who didn't even think about anything, was wearing slipper during the interview, and then I made it. So
hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we have in here Stefan, that he's gonna be talking about all the scholarship that you guys have been asking me to make a video. That is the undergraduate for the MEXT Scholarship. So hello Stefan, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's winter right now here in Japan, so it's really very cold. Peak of winter, and you know that February first.
Yeah, same here. So we are like, oh. So he went to Japan like 20 years ago, and actually the scholarship haven't changed a lot. So we are going to be talking today about the guidelines and some of his experience. So maybe you guys also try to apply for the scholarship.
Okay, thank you for asking, because it is a very long process. I think it was around a year of a lengthy process. It started around April of 1999 when
Wow.
my cousin saw this poster about the scholarship grant. Well, nowadays it's different because we already have social media and we have the internet, and people could just easily get their information online. However, during my time, I feel so old. We had this. It was done manually. So my cousin saw this poster, and she thought about applying for a different program, which is research. Mine was undergraduate. So we saw that poster, and then we have those requirements in the poster, which basically required us to send our transcript of records or proof that we already have at least 12 years of education, which means 6 years of elementary and then high school or junior high school. So in the Philippines during that time, we only had 6 years of elementary and 4 years of high school. We didn't have junior high school. So we needed to have at least 2 more years of college education before we could qualify for the first step. But that time, I was already in my 3rd year college in the Philippines. So that means I already had at least 12, which means I was already in my 13th year of general education. So that made me qualify. That's step 1. The next one was to send my transcript of records, my school record, my grades, and then a recommendation letter from, it could be a principal from your high school. In my case, because I was already a college student by that time, I had my recommendation from our department chairperson from the Department of Accountancy, because I was majoring in accountancy during that time. So she made this sealed recommendation. I didn't even know what she wrote there. So that's it. It was those papers, those requirements, and then also the format for us to fill up. What's the reason why we wanted to apply for the scholarship? Some of our achievements in life, in like educational achievements and our extracurricular activities. Really, you have to fit them into that space. I had so many achievements back then because I was very active in my school, but I had to, choose the best ones. You really have to make sure that it's there and it would fit in the space. So those are the papers that we submitted to the embassy. And then you have to wait. You have to wait for a few more weeks or probably months before the letter would arrive to you, to your house, and tell you that you actually passed the first screening, because that's the first step. Yeah, for me, during my time, because it was April, it was summer break for us. So I have already forgotten about the whole thing until the envelope came, and then I read it and it's like, what's this? And when I opened it, I said, oh, congratulations, you have passed the first screening of the Monbusho Scholarship. I thought I wouldn't pass the first screening because during that time, I remember very well that I had one subject which was really very bad. Like I got a really bad grade in one of my subjects. So I thought that would probably affect their evaluation for me. But it didn't, actually. Surprisingly, it didn't. I passed that stage. So even though I had a really bad grade in one subject, still I passed that stage. Probably they saw the overall thing, the essay, the short, the reasons why I wanted to become a Monbusho scholar. Maybe they put emphasis on those ones instead of just one grade that, I almost failed in one subject, actually. So let's go now to the second step, which is the examination. I have to be very honest because by that time I was already majoring in accountancy. And high school and college are two different things, two different worlds, because you already start to major in certain courses, right? So you tend to forget subjects that you used to master back in high school, like history, like calculus, trigonometry. We didn't need those stuff in accounting anymore. So I had already forgotten about them because I wanted to make my life simpler because I just wanted to focus on debits and credits and balance sheets. So by that time, they gave us topics that we needed to review for the examination, which is very nice actually for the embassy to actually give us the hints on not answer but hints on what to study so that we could actually prepare for the examination. In my case, I was social science. So I had to study on history, mathematics, and English. English was not a problem. Like my English now probably is not as good as I was back then because back in the Philippines I was really all English, and I was a grammar I was a grammar police. And back then, now I don't care anymore anyway. But I had no problem with English, so I just English was not really something that I would study. So I focused on history because accountancy. Come on, we didn't study history anymore. For the past 3 years, why would I study the history of the world when I was majoring in balance sheets and income statements, right? So I had to review my world history, specifically Asian history, because I think that's where the focus. That's what the letter mentioned. You have to focus on Asian history. Mathematics, back then I was so confident with math because I felt like, one of the reasons why I majored in accountancy was because I thought I was good in math. So yeah, to make the long story short, I only studied for that for only one day. I studied only at nighttime. Like I said, I was already in my third year college. I was very busy with my studies. I was also a student politician, so I was busy with my extracurricular activities. So I just had to, really review stuff like that. And at that point, I thought maybe I wasn't really meant for this scholarship. So I told my dad that I was not going to take the examination because I had to fly from my hometown to another city. It takes 30 minutes by plane. And, Philippines, we are made up of several islands. So it's not easy to move from one island to another unless, we don't have so many bridges there in the Philippines. So we had to take a plane, and it's expensive to take a plane. So I already gave up on the idea of taking the examination until the day before the examination. My dad told me that he borrowed some money to buy the airplane ticket. It's funny because I was already like, no, I wasn't gonna go anymore. And then suddenly my dad found a way to actually go to have me fly to Cebu, and that's it. I took the early morning flight, and it so happened that I had a relative there. So maybe in the case of Costa Rica or in Latin America, it would be a lot easier if you just live in the capital city or near the embassy. You're lucky actually.
So, not really, because for me it was like 4 hours.
Oh gosh, well, mine was better because airplane is just 30 minutes. So,
yeah, so mine was longer.
Yeah, so actually in the Philippines, there were 3 testing centers. One, it was in the capital of Manila. The other one's in Cebu. Cebu is the nearest one to me. And then there's another one in the southern Philippines, Davao City. So there were 3 testing centers. So I took the early morning flight. So happened I had a relative in Cebu who actually picked me up from the airport and then zoomed me straight to the location of the test. I was actually the last one to arrive. I was almost late. It's really funny, all these things, I was like, all the jinx were there, It rained so hard because it was July, Philippines, July, August, it's like rainy season. It rained so hard. The plane got delayed. I arrived late. When I arrived there, the testing, the person who was in charge at the Oketsuke or the registration was like, she was like, I thought you're not coming anymore. Like, I'm here. I was soaking wet. So when I entered the testing center, I didn't even hear the orientation anymore. I just started taking the examination right away. So when I sat down there and then they said okay, the first examination would be mathematics. And it was like, math right away. So I sat there, and then they gave us the test questions for math. And then I thought, examination, entrance examination, you would actually think that it would be like scratching of A, B, C, D, or like multiple choice or something. And it wasn't
No.
like that. No, it's not.
I'm like, no.
They gave me the test question, and they only had, believe it or not, they only had 3 questions. Just 3 questions, and they're all problem solving.
And you're like,
And I was like, what? And then just look at it. It's like, oh God, like, why did my father have to spend this amount of money just for me, just for me to see this? And then I was like, oh no, this is not happening. I'm not gonna pass this one. And then I turned to the next page, and then I saw a question about calculus. And luckily, I still remembered my high school calculus, because I was just like, at that point, calculus was just 2 or 3 years ago. So somehow I remembered.
I will have forget everything, right?
Somehow at that time. Now, if you ask me calculus questions, no, no way. But back then, I still remember how to prove an equation, so it was quite okay. The second question was quite okay, so probably that started my engine. It really, it just somehow came back naturally. Because you started to gain a little bit of confidence when I was able to answer question number 2. I skipped question number 1, and then I went to question number 3 as well, which was about limits. So somehow I think I wasn't so sure about my answer to question number 3, but I was confident with question number 2. Question number 2 wasn't, if it's in Japanese term, it's sankaku. They have the maru, and then the batsu, and then the sankaku. So I thought maybe it was sankaku in question number 3. And then I went back to question number 1 again, and it's like, what is this? What is this? Because it's trigonometry. And accountancy. I was already an accounting major. If I were an engineering major, probably I would have remembered it. So really nothing came out into my mind. And then you just started to write something there. Like I said, I already programmed my mind that if I don't know the answer to this question, at least I should write something. Just don't leave it blank. Just write something. That at least I would prove to the person who is going to check the paper that I exerted a little bit of effort, right? That's what I did. I just wrote something there, but no, time ran out, and then I just had to submit the paper, and that's it. And then when math was over, and I thought it's over for me, then came history. And I thought history that's the one that I was so worried about, remember? History, because I thought I will already forget history. And then when they put the questions on history, I don't know, maybe it's God's plan, or I don't know, because when the questions were there, I was like, how come I know the answers to these questions? They had this blank map of Asia, and then they have these questions on the right side, and then they have, okay, you just have to match which country belongs this event. So they have the events on the right side, and then there's a blank map of Asia, and then you just have to put the number. So if this event happened in Thailand, then you have to put the number which belongs to Thailand. If this event happened in the Philippines, blah 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 blah. And I don't know, I was so good at it. I was like, I'm pretty sure I managed that part, the history. And so history was about mostly Asia. They probably just only have 2 or 3 questions about Europe. It was right. The hint that they gave me was right. That they would really focus on Asia. I was actually very abrupt with current events, and I'm just very interested with anything about global issues. So yeah, it was okay for me. The history kind of gave me a little bit of boost, and I thought, like, I hope that if I pass history, probably I could make up for what I missed in the math section. And then came the English examination, which was basically correcting mistakes, passive, active voice,
like filling up, like
filling,
phrase.
yeah. these sentences, and then they have this, they underline certain parts of one sentence, and then you identify which one is mistake. And then there's also this, you rearrange the whole sentence, and convert this active voice into passive voice, or passive voice into active voice, or identify if this is passive or active, like something like that.
Yeah, they still do that.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know exactly how they do it right now, but that was it. And I was pretty confident with that English examination. I was like, no, this is just like, I thought it was just like entrance examination for college. So those were the three subjects. The ones who took the natural science would take English, math, and then science, depending on their major. Either they're gonna take physics or chemistry or biology.
Okay.
I think if you want to major in biology or medicine, you had to take biology instead of physics. I'm not sure right now, but that's how it is with natural science. So we were separated, by the way, the social science and the natural science. The person in charge of the test, like probably the head, announced that, okay, after the math part, we already checked all of your answers. The following persons will stay for this afternoon for the interview because you passed the math examination. And I was like, only math? Like, so what about the world history, and what about the English, which I was very confident, I was like, only math? Because there's no way that they have already checked the English examination, right? Because we just finished the English examination, and then suddenly they just made an announcement that the following people should stay for the interview because they have already checked the math questions. I was like, no way. There's no way I'm gonna stay in the afternoon. So they did make the announcement, and the first name that they announced was my name. Okay, Stefan Diaz. It's like, what? Like, what? I was like, no way. Like seriously? So maybe, I had a Sankaku and one Maru.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way I was gonna pass the math examination. I thought it was no way I was gonna pass those three questions. But anyway, so I did pass the math question apparently, and that meant that I had to stay. So I think there were only like 4 of us among hundreds, or so hundreds of us. Only 4 of us made it to the interview. So I'm just talking about people who made it into interview in the Cebu Center. It doesn't include Manila, and it doesn't include the one in the south, which is in Davao. So probably there were more people who passed in Manila compared to us. So there were 4 of us, and then we were just like discussing, hey, oh my goodness, what happened? What just happened? Like only math, blah, blah, blah. So I was the only one who is not from Cebu who actually made it into the next round. So most people were from Cebu, which is our testing center was actually in that same university, which is a very famous and reputable university in Cebu City. Yes, so I had to go back in the afternoon for the interview, and I wasn't prepared for that one because I wasn't really into the whole thing. I was wearing slippers. Guys, I'm just talking like this because I'm talking about the 1999 fad. This was 1999. It was cool to wear slippers, during that time. You don't wear, and then during rainy season, Philippine rainy season, you would rather wear slippers than wear shoes because you get wet. Seriously, with the flooding and all that. So it's more practical to wear slippers. So at that time, I didn't have shoes. Actually, I didn't really have shoes. I only had slippers. Even if I went to the university, I was just wearing slippers. But I had socks. It's a fad back then. You wear socks.
Oh my God. The fashion.
Oh gosh, the fashion back then, So I was just wearing slipper, and then I had to call my auntie, like, hey, I passed the first round. I didn't have shoes. Can I borrow shoes from my uncle? It was like, oh, I needed shoes for the interview. And they tried to get they like, what's your size? I'm size 9, blah blah. Yeah, yeah, we have size 9 here. So my auntie tried to bring me the shoes, but it didn't make it because there was traffic.
Oh.
Rainy season, lunchtime in the Philippines, whenever it's lunchtime, everyone just goes back home or just goes somewhere to eat lunch or whatever. So it didn't make on time because my interview would start at 1 o'clock. So at 1 o'clock, they started the interview and I was just wearing slippers. So after I passed the written exam, now we are done with the written examination. I don't know how they did it, but I was done with the written exam. So it came with the interview. So in the interview, it was an all Japanese panel. All of them were Japanese, 5 of them from the consulate office in Cebu, and then asking me question about myself, personal question. And this is also the same thing that I tell the girls who join in beauty pageants, which I am now working. When it comes to interview, you just really have to be yourself. You don't have to fake certain stuff. Because I was there. There were so many questions asking about my extracurricular activities. What are my contributions to the community? Which I was actually very active for my community because as a Christian, I was really very active with church and student and youth camps, children's camp, and I mentioned all of them. I was very busy with this and that, and then I was a student politician myself, so I could enumerate all of my activities, all of my contribution to the community without even thinking. It will just come out naturally. So I was able to enumerate them, and then came the most important question actually of that time. The most important question was, they asked me, the question was like, do you know Japanese? And I could have faked it, right? I could have said, yeah, I know Japanese, blah blah blah, but I said no, like right there, like no, I have no, I cannot read Japanese. And then they asked a follow-up question, which was, but are you willing to study Japanese? I said, yeah, of course. I am very willing to study Japanese. And I said, as a matter of fact, I know one Japanese song. And I did know one Japanese song because I was a fan of anime and I memorized one Japanese song. And then the interviewer said, what is that Japanese song? It's like, it's from the anime called Voltes 5. And they were like, what is that? And then I explained to them, well, it's an anime that was so popular in the 1980s when I was a kid, and then they revived it recently here in the Philippines. And say, oh yeah. I said, yeah, we know. They said, they know. Yeah, and then can you sing it for us? And then I started singing. It's like, Tato e arashi go hoko tomo. It's like, and then they were just like clapping, like, oh, very good. And I was like, oh my goodness, they were so happy. You could see it in their face that they were just so happy and like, oh, what does that mean? I was like,
did I did a good thing or a bad thing?
Like, did I do a good thing? And then actually one guy there said, well, see you in Japan then. It was like, maybe it was like a joke or what, or it was very casual when he said, oh, we'll see you after the interview. It's like, well, see you in Japan then. I was like, what does that mean? So everything ended, like that was my interview basically. I was just being honest. When they asked me if I knew Japanese, I said no, I didn't know Japanese. I didn't know how to read Japanese, but it just so happened that I knew how to sing one Japanese song at that time, and then they made me sing. So I think it's more about the personality that they were looking. Will this person survive Japan in the next 5 years? Or will this person just, or what? I think they're looking at the totality of the person. It's not just about what's in your brain or what you have achieved in life, because paper achievements, what you wrote on paper may be different from the actual person that you really are. So they're probably just looking for someone with a sense of, flexibility, adaptability, which is very important once you are in Japan. So I only think about that now, okay? But at that time, I wasn't really thinking that way. I had to wait until around January. So that's like 6 months of waiting until the letter came to my house, which told me that I was one of those recommended by the Japanese embassy in Japan to be considered for the Monbusho scholarship. It didn't mean to say that I already got the scholarship, but I was
Wow.
just one of the recommended applicants from the Philippines to be submitted to the Monbusho scholarship, out to the Monbusho office in Japan. But the reason why they sent that mail was because they wanted me to prepare for my passport right now, like as soon as, because that's January and you were supposed to leave around April. So they told us, just in case you made it into the final list, please prepare, your passport, blah, 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 blah. And then at that time I said, no, there's no way I'm going to make it. I was like, no way, no way.
And negative all the way.
I was like, no way. Because at that time, really, honestly, at that time, I was already so focused with my accountancy education. I was majoring. I had my thesis. I had to. I was thinking on one step at a time. I need to graduate. I need to do things properly before I graduate in my college. And then came February, and then another letter came. It was like, oh my goodness, from the embassy again. Like, what is this letter? So when I opened it up, I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. And then I told my mom, I was like, Ma, I passed. I was like, oh my goodness, no way. Like, no, oh my God. I passed the exam, the Monbusho scholarship. It's like, and then, all these things came into my mind. It was like, no, it's this, what's going to happen, because I have worked so hard for my accountancy degree and I wanted to become a certified public accountant. And then suddenly came this scholarship grant and I have to start all over again, study another language, right? You have to study a whole new language, be in a totally different culture. Well, at that time, it was fukusatsu, like really complicated. The emotion, everything else just got mixed. And then to be separated from my family, I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and one of them was a baby during that time. And then, just thinking about those idea that I would be separated from my family, and then I had to start all over again, and then I didn't know any Japanese, and what I was gonna do. And I didn't have a passport because I didn't prepare, honestly. So, yeah, when that letter came, so you see, the whole process, it started with April, with the first screening, and then July, the examination, and then the interview in the afternoon, and then the letter came around January and February. So it was a long process that I have already totally forgotten about its existence. And then came that letter telling me that I passed the examination. And by that time, to be honest, I didn't really want to go to Japan. I was like, I told my mom, like, no, I didn't want to go. I mean, like after the whole process, I already conditioned myself to take the CPA board examination at that time, and I wasn't really thinking about starting all over again. Maybe if the examination happened on July and then the result came 1 week or 2 weeks later, maybe the emotion would be different. But at that time, it's really different. It's like lost in translation. It was totally lost in the flow of thoughts and events of my life. But anyway, so at that time, I didn't do anything until the embassy in Japan started calling. I didn't reply. I didn't say anything, and then they just kept on calling me and telling me, "Are you going to pursue the scholarship?" Because they had to prepare for my air ticket to Japan. And I was like, "Oh gosh!" Like, I told them just, okay, I'm going to prepare my passport. I don't have my passport yet, so I will prepare my passport and I would send my passport to the embassy. And I asked them if I needed to go to the embassy in Manila for my visa, and they said, "Oh, we will make an exemption on you because I live in the island, so Never. I've never stepped into the embassy floor. I haven't even seen the building myself. So we did inform the embassy people that I couldn't afford to fly to Manila to pick it up and then come back again. So my cousin was working in Manila, pick it up for me. So she pick up my passport with a visa on it, and yeah. So it's really it's different. My story is totally different. So which I've been telling everyone, that if you really put your heart into something, and if you believe that it's really meant for you, God will move mountains just to give it to you. If it's really meant for you, it's really meant for you. Even if you say no, even if you refuse or what, if God really wants you to be here in Japan, He will give it to you. Because I only learned later on that among the 7 of us from the Philippines who passed the examination, I was number 1. So that was the main reason why the embassy kept on calling me.
Oh,
Because they could not afford to lose the number 1 guy. And I didn't even know that. I was just, so the other 6 guys were all from Manila. They came from the best schools in Manila: University of the Philippines, Ateneo de Manila, De La Salle University. These are the Waseda, the Keio, and the Todai of the Philippines. And I came from my island. So
like that's something like really like now that you're talking about these two, because I know like there is so many people. Like I'm from a really small town, so I'm like the island. Like I'm the U of the Philippines, because I'm from a really, really, really small town where the streets doesn't even have the black roads. It has a lot of holes and everything, and we didn't even have like, I don't know, like a car or something like that. So, and my family was really poor. So I see like so many people contact me sometimes, and it's like, but I don't have money to apply for scholarships. And it's like they don't require you to have money, or to even like they don't even require you to graduate from a really famous university or something like that. And that's something good that so many people don't know, and they are like, I don't know if I'm gonna pass. It's like, look at Stephen, he's from a small island and I'm from a really small town, and as he say, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Because like the scholarship is not gonna like put first the people that are from famous like schools. They don't care about that.
yeah, that's true. That's true. I agree with you. Well, I value my education, that's for sure, because I thought that would be my ticket away from poverty, because I came from a poor family myself. For me, it all boils down to just being honest to yourself, being true to yourself. And if you have worked so hard in the past, like if you have worked so hard with your studies and with your education, sooner or later, one day, you will reap the fruits of your hard labor. It won't be put into waste. Just believe in your dream. If you believe in yourself, and if you're real, stay true to yourself.
And one last question, like if you had to change anything in this process, or if you had to change anything after you arrived to Japan, or something that you would like to tell people, like someone that is trying to apply right now, for example, and they are preparing right now, what would you tell them?
Well, the first thing that I would tell them is right now, because things have changed, right? I think they should really study the basic Japanese, starting with the hiragana, the katakana, and some kanjis, because it's really very hard to catch up if you didn't know these basic stuff. I had a hard time with that one. I have to be very honest. I went to I was the best from the Philippines, and when I arrived here in Japan, I was like the worst, because I was trying to catch up with the rest of the fellow scholars from different countries when it comes to my studies, and I was really behind with Japanese. And that put me in a big disadvantage. So while I was catching up with the other studies, I was also catching up with the hiragana, with the katakana, and with the kanji. But most of my friends were Japanese, so we were the ones who were traveling around the country, and that actually improved my Japanese even better. I tend to appreciate the beauty of Japan through that experience. It's not on the book knowledge, it's not on the four corners of your classroom. Basically, it's when you go out there and make friends, and your real self. If you just bring out your real self and being friendly to everyone, that's what will make you actually survive your studies here, and then eventually your career in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Stefan, for sharing your story. I hope this helped you guys. And I will see you guys in the other video that is gonna be more like, I don't know, like straight to the point, and let's see like which ones, how to study for the test and all of this. This one is the push up to, like, I don't know, give you guys some energy to try to apply for the scholarship, to try to get interested into the scholarship. But in the next videos, I'm gonna be more like giving you guys the insights into these certain points that are in the process of the scholarship.
Yeah.
So bye bye, Stefan. Thank you.
You know, if it's really meant for you, it's really meant for you. That's it.